Hey, good evening, Columbus, Georgia. This is the Mark LaJoye podcast program. And we got a lot of good things to talk about today. We'll have my co host on here, Sarah Smith. We got a new addition to the program.
Yes, we
That's
do.
Julia Pierce. So let's talk to Julia a bit. Welcome, Julia.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Mm.
So we're gonna have another co-host on. Julia's gonna be part of that, and Sarah still being part of the program.
Yes.
The thing is, it's Sarah is a college student with 4 kids, so it takes up most of her time, and she's still a valuable part of this program. So she will be part of the program. She'll be filling in. Julia will be coming into the program also. She's got a wide and varied background in research and things of that. So she's very intelligent when it comes to the research side of that, and we'll get her trained up. So
yes, we will.
it'll be good to go. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with the campaign elections and things that are going on with. Of course, I'm the mayoral candidate, one of the mayoral candidates, one of 5 that are out there. So we just want to kind of discuss a few things. We've already had, they called them debates. Technically, they're really not debates. You want to really think about it. They're more of a forum or a Q&A kind of thing is what they are. But I think the one that we really got the most exposure from the other night was the Columbus State University, which was the Young Democrats that were put on at the University Hall, Columbus State University. So that was a very good turnout. The audience was full. All the seats were full. It sounded like we had got a lot of folks out there, got a lot of exposure. We cracked a few jokes. So folks, I do have a humorous side of me, don't I, Harry?
Yes, you do have a very humorous side that you have shown me many a time.
Yes. That's the interesting part, because one lady even made a comment on Facebook and before, and she said, "Wow, Mark, I didn't realize you had a humorous side of you." And I said, "Yeah, I do. I have a humorous side of me, and it does." But one of the things that folks have to understand is, for me, it's black and white, and I don't know any other colors. I don't see colors. It's always been that way, even when I was in the Army. And everything that I've done throughout my years, it's all black and white to me, and that's the only way. To me, that's the only way to be, because that's honesty. I'm not going to try to feed society with a line of BS. I'm just not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people equate equate my openness to anger, and it's really not that. I said,
well, it's passion.
It is passion, and I have a passion for people and politics and everything else. And I just want to do a good job. I mean, I don't see, like I said, I don't see color, but people want to throw me into that category, and then they want to tell people, they go, "Oh man, how many times did you run?" And it's really ignorance.
I think like the I guess the black and white aspect is like when it comes to execution and the law and to dealing with issues and dealing with problems. It's like there's no really a middle ground in the aspect of, is this the right thing to do, or is it the wrong thing to do, or is this something that's going to work, or is it not something that's going to work? So that's where I think it's like more black and white.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's, when I was in the Army taught us some very valuable skills, and some of those things were, it's that you have plans. And one guy said, "Well, this is not the Army." And I say, because he was making mention to my commercial. I mean, he was like, "Oh, it's not the Army." And the Army uses a big hammer instead of, I was like, dude, you just don't understand the context of it. Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah, we use a hammer when we need to use a hammer.
Yeah.
But we're skilled practitioners is what we are. We don't just go in there and everybody thinks we just go in and kill everybody and bomb everything, bomb it to hell and back. I mean, there is a possibility of those things happening, but the units that I served in were skilled operators. We go in surgically to remove things that we try to do. And with the new munitions and things that we have in the military, one of those things is that we go in because we don't try to create mass casualties. And that's not our job.
Yeah.
Our job is to go in and take out the bad guys, whoever the bad guys and girls are. And, that's why I said when I do everything with precision, that's what I do. But this guy tried to beat up on my commercial that I did out there. And basically I was telling, all politicians, if you're running for a political position, you got to have a plan.
Yeah.
You just can't walk into this stuff. I mean, we all got campaign initiatives. So I don't understand where people are coming from. What do you think, Julia?
Well, I mean, just in my experience, I've seen that there's been a lot of the candidates that have a platform that's workable. I have seen people who kind of come in last minute where it might appear that they have a platform.
Did we have a last minute candidate that came in?
We did. Well,
What's his name?
Well, Attorney Brialt, Christopher Brialt. Yeah.
Chris Brialt. Hey,
Surprise!
Chris.
Surprise!
Hello.
And it's interesting because that's what I was gonna say is like I've seen in the history of the mayoral candidates, especially, that the establishment will bring in a last minute candidate. They see that maybe there's a threat to, whoever the current candidates are. And so they have an establishment puppet. Not that I'm saying that Brialt is. I don't know a whole lot about him. But in the past, the establishment last minute puppet was usually Zephaniah Baker.
Right.
And a lot of times what I saw is that they would throw the votes to Zephaniah Baker, and he would literally come in on the most popular platform from the conservative perspective, but he was put in there to glean the votes from the Black community.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then it was almost like, and I can't prove this, this is just
Conjecture.
It's conjecture. It's what it kind of looks
Sure.
like, is at the very end, they would take that last minute candidate and take the votes and apply it to him and then just reapportion those votes to the popular candidate, which is really the one that's already selected. And I saw them do that when Skip Henderson ran in 2018. So, I've kind of wondered if that's what they were going to do in this one. It has that feel.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like the jury's out on Chris, because so I guess it's just one of those things that we'll have to see.
Yeah.
We kind of hit it off the other night, and that's kind of weird. Like I said, between all of my job was to try to get folks to laugh a little bit, and that's what I did. I took some of the seriousness away from it because I think the first joke that I cracked was Braille kept asking for to repeat the questions. And I said, oh, God, I'm going to pull a Chris Brialt here, And he goes like, yeah, nobody can pronounce my name. I said, well, I did. Brialt, right? I mean, is that French? I mean, is that like LaJoye, or,
Oh, my goodness.
But, I mean, we actually got folks to laugh a little bit, and we got a clap in the audience. And I think I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish the other night. But the thing that really kind of irritated me about that whole mess was the way that the questions were asked. And I'm very suspect. I'm a very suspect person because what? I'm a police officer, right? Or I'm a military guy and a law enforcement official. So I question everything is what I do until, I try to draw some validity from it. But the bottom line, what it was the other night is it has seemed like the former city manager, Isaiah Hughley, got 70% more questions than we did. I got 3 questions.
Well, that's because he's the selected candidate.
Oh, good God. I should have realized that, folks. I didn't realize that he was the select candidate. I just thought we're just running just because we feel like running, right? Okay.
Well, I mean, you could look on campaign disclosures and see what money is behind. And I've always heard, follow the money.
I'm glad you brought that up, money, because we were going to talk about that in a second. Folks, go look at the campaign disclosures.
Oh, yeah. That's a debacle.
And that's a debacle in itself. But look at the money and who donated. Who donated to Mr. Hughley's campaign, and the big family names that donated to Miss Joanne Coggle's campaign. that's full of big family favors right there. So establishment people, establishment Columbus is what that is. So they're not representative of Columbus, but they're always the ones that are, if they want to be able to pick up a phone and say, hey, remember that campaign donation I gave you? You know, remember that thing, you know, that kind of thing. And see, that's the thing that really irritates me, is the fact that I always put out right up front, and that's that I'm going to conduct investigations and audits. That's what I'm going to do. Because for me, I don't want to walk in on an operation that somebody was already in charge of. And the bottom line is that all of a sudden I get there and then I find out that the finance department is really pretty messed up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want anything to fall back in my lap that I didn't create. If I created the mess, I'll take responsibility for it. So I think that's what's important. And, you know, when I start talking about investigations and audits and no favors and stuff like that, Big Columbus money don't like that.
No.
They don't like that. They want to be able to pick up a phone and say, hey, Mark LaJoye, remember that money I gave you? Remember that $3,300 that I gave you? Maximum campaign donation? All those things? That's what that's all about. It's all about that. So you got two establishment candidates. You got Mr. Hughley on one side of it. You got Ms. Joanne Calgon on the other side of it. Then there's all of us, the rest of us, the little peons, the minions at the bottom, so to speak.
Yeah, but then the question is who's behind each of the candidates and why are they both the selected ones?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And I mean, honestly, when I was looking at the campaign disclosures of Joanne and of Isaiah Hughley, I saw kind of a divide in who was funding who. And so when I saw, like, on Joanne, she has a lot of the Peasold people behind her. And then I saw behind Isaiah that he has all of the Tomlinsons, you know, with Synovus and, you know, some of the same people that used to be behind, like the Turners. And I'm a firm believer that as I've been doing research since 2018 when Charlie was running for mayor, that there's two major, like, landowners that are dueling for control of Columbus. And, you know, it was interesting because for the longest time, it looked like there was a Turner hold on a lot of the people who are in as counselors, like the people that were being elected. You know, you saw Skip Henderson was kind of the groomed candidate choice for, you know, to succeed Teresa Tomlinson. And so when I started looking in that, and then of course, as I'm, you know, doing the campaign management and kind of the catch-all, be-all, do-all for Charlie, I started seeing that a lot of the people who were aligned with the Turners were coming after me. But what was interesting is I also saw the people from the Peasold side of things coming after me too. And that's really when I started seeing, wait a minute, there's like it's like two monsters that are dueling for power for land in Columbus. And so I don't know, it just kind of, it's interesting now because I see the dynamics of that changing. And like I was telling Sarah the other day, and I think I told Steve Kelly this at one time too in a conversation that we had, was for the first time since 2014, I feel like that there's a good change coming to Columbus.
Yeah, well, I think the day of reckoning is coming. You know, all these, like we talked about, the big family money, the names that are involved, you know, I really do. I think that it's all coming around. It's all going to come down around their feet.
I agree.
No doubt. Even, you know, the past sheriff's race, I still say that was 100% cheated. The last two races I was in.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
well, I mean, it's all coming out too now that Smartmatic before Dominion was compromised. And I know that in the 2018 election that Smartmatic was used. It wasn't until I think 2020 that we got the Dominion, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, and you ran in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And then we had was it the 2021 or 2022 runoffs? Was it
2021? I think
21.
it with Purdue and
the Purdue runoff and all that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's like you have Smartmatic, and so with you thinking and believing that yours was taken from you, I would put money on that one.
Well, you know, what was interesting about 2020, and you're going to hear all of this again. Somebody's going to say, oh, well, here we go again. We're talking about the 2020 elections. Well, that is where the cheating started.
Oh, yeah.
That was fundamentally, that's where it all gonna come down, because my vote at the same time I watched my vote flip was the same time that Donald J. Trump's vote flipped in Georgia. Now, is that a coincidence? I don't think so.
No.
There ain't no way that was a coincidence. And now we know what's going on with the Georgia Board of Elections, all the investigations, the Fulton County crap that's going on. And, you know, the two ladies that sued from Fulton County and got all that money, well, guess what? They're in damn big trouble again. And they got to give it all back. And they're going to be prosecuted. And I'm going to tell you now, if legally that opens the doors, I still think in my mind, and Sarah said this before, that I'm going to get a phone call one day. And they're going to call me and they're going to tell me, Mark, you were the guy, the candidate for sheriff, weren't you? And I said, damn right I was. And they're going to put me up in that position, because I'm still a firm believer that whole thing was cheated on. I don't care what you call it. If you want to say it's my opinion, it's my opinion. But we have a lot of facts to back it up all the way across the state.
Who is it? Greg Dolezal. He's running for, I think, lieutenant governor, or is he running for secretary of state?
No, it's lieutenant governor.
Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, he's even talking about it, and I shared it to my Facebook page where the FISA, not CISA, the actual report from CISA.gov, it was telling about all the vulnerabilities that were in these machines, and how with a memory card you can switch a vote, that you and also the QR codes that are on the ballot, how those QR codes are able to switch the votes as well without you detecting it. And it's just very funny, like during the 2022 election, which was my
for the school board.
The school board, my race for the school board. Lo and behold, we have to stop counting. We have to make sure that corrupted memory cards or votes that weren't fully tallied, according to Ms. Boren, that they are retallied. So they had to stop the voting count, you know? Yeah. And so it's like you look at all these things and you can't just say it's a coincidence. You kind of have to say, this is what's actually happening right now. So,
well, it's interesting that, you know, all of this stuff, the way it's starting to come down now, and the folks that were crying wolf in the beginning are now the ones who are suspect on what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, I knew when I was talking to Vernon Jones up in Atlanta, I had lunch with him at the Capitol restaurant, which is a pretty swanky place down in Atlanta. And when they heard my story about the 2,000 meals issue, Vernon asked, I found out from a Superior Court judge who was retired out of Connecticut that was in Atlanta. He was one of the guys that they were reaching out to. And the crazy part is he was telling me he was a guy, I believe, that filed the injunction. They had backed up shredding trucks to the back door of Fulton County Arena where they were doing all of the ballot count and all that stuff. And they stopped them. I mean, that was last minute stuff. They were getting ready to zit right through the, you know, all the ballots and paper ballots and all that kind of stuff. And that's how I found out about all that stuff. That's when this stuff broke loose, right? And so there's just so much garbage out there and stuff like that. And we've got to watch these elections locally and across the state, because even the local elections, I'm going to tell you now, I don't trust the election office. I don't trust them worth a shit.
Well, going back to, I guess, I guess even just the local aspect of our candidates, you know, it brings the thought for me. It's like, I've been speaking very heavily on policy. Why do I talk about policy? Because, you know, that's one of my degrees. Like public policy is one of the things that I'm going to be focusing on. So we have to talk about how certain plans are going to be implemented, having objectives, having an action plans to execute the objectives to meet the goals.
God, that sounds like the military, man. Execute the objective. Wow, watch out, folks.
Well,
you can't do that. Can't have a plan.
Well, this is the thing that is very important when you're dealing with policy all the way up to the federal level, because this is pretty much what makes up our government. And so, like, my thing is, like, when we're looking at policy and we examine all of these candidates, one of the things that's so important is for voters to say, hey, what kind of policy, what kind of plans these candidates going to do? And so how do we break up all the fluff? How do we push past the biases and the, I guess, preferred candidates for the establishment? Like, the only way to do that is to vote according to plans and execution. Like, how, not only what do they want to do, but what are the steps that's going to be taken to ensure that those objectives are reached. And so maybe you can speak into that a little bit. And I also would like to talk about some of the things that I've heard on the debate from some of the other candidates. Now, I couldn't watch it all in its full totality, but I did watch a good amount. So policy, once again, focusing on the local level and the local candidates, what does that look like? And what have you seen with the other candidates?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the policy thing, because that was one of the things we were going to talk about tonight was policy. People can talk about initiatives, their campaign initiatives. They haven't explained them. They really haven't explained them. And I wrote a few examples down here, which I thought was important. Well, I'll start out with Mr. Isaiah Hughley. The interesting part with him is with referring to the other candidates, they've created a narrative. He claims a division toward Hughley himself. And the bottom line was he talks about the source of chaos and division.
Oh, yeah.
And
that was a big thing.
I'm Isaiah Hughley. I'm the former city manager and blah, 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 blah. And I just want to talk about everybody around the table here. And he referred to us as candidates, right? And then the other night at Columbus State University, he referred to us as the podium candidates up here, that he is the healer of division and chaos.
Healer? Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
That is crazy.
I am so excited about that. Mr. Hughley, you created division
Yes, he
and
did.
chaos.
Yes, he did.
Well, who are you trying to fool? Come on, man.
Well, everything that's being uncovered, and you and I talked about this the other
Yeah.
day, Mark, everything that's being uncovered is all the stuff that was already hidden under his oversight.
Yes.
And so you can't
Oh.
claim
I got a
that
few
you're
of those right here.
you can't claim that you're healing the chaos that you created. The only reason that it's chaos is because it's now been uncovered. So are you going to be the one that creates the chaos so that you can be the one who is the
healer. Yeah,
Because to me,
I
that
solved
kind
the
of
problem,
sounds
guys.
like, and not that I'm giving this much credit to Isaiah. Okay, I obviously wouldn't do that, but that kind of sounds like an antichrist to me.
It more so sounds like Stockholm syndrome,
Yeah.
Let me be your oppressor
Yeah.
and give you the solution to.
You know, in the Army, we've got a saying: "Don't say as I say. Don't. What is it? Don't do as I say, or don't do as hell. I screwed that up.
It's okay.
Yeah, don't do as I do, but do as I say. That's the thing. So don't look at my examples. You just follow what I tell you that was right. God, how stupid do you think we are? Come on, man. But this is the kind of stuff, we're the ones who created the chaos, and he's going to be the one who's going to solve the division in Columbus. Well, no, that's not going to happen. So, those are some of the things that he keeps referring to us across the stage. And then the other thing that happened the other night when we started talking about policy, like I said, you know how many questions? I got 3 questions. Isaiah got every question, just about everything. And they let him have the last answer on the last question. And that was about the chaos BS again, all that crap that he brought up in the very end of it. So it made him look, and then he had his entourage of Hughley T-shirts and 50 people out there and all that kind of stuff. I was like, good God.
Well, you also brought up an interesting point about how the questions were selected. And I just want to say for the record, you guys, it's like, we're not trying to harp on people. We're not trying to make them look bad. At the end of the day, this affects all of us. This affects our daily lives. This affects what our children will inherit.
Yeah.
So it's important for us to really tackle what these people are saying and to go after, to critique it, to use our voices to say, hey, we're seeing a problem here. We're seeing some complicity, and we need to share that with each other.
But there's no policy discussion. That's the thing. It's like what is that thing you do in high school? What is it? King of the Hill, or dodgeball. You select everybody on the dodgeball, and the last kid is left over there. So we're the last kids left, that didn't get selected for dodgeball. But this is a popularity contest. It's not a policy contest, because if you look at the policies from each and every person, I'm going to plug Steve Kelly a little bit here, because Steve, his policies kind of come close to mine. They're pretty close, but he's more independent and more liberal, whatever. Yeah, I mean, but his policies are very close to my policies. We talk about homelessness. We talk about safety and security. They talk about those things, but they just, boom, glance over it, because if the people submitting the questions actually submitted it, I was like, okay, you said about safety and security. Tell me specifically what you're going to do with safety and security.
Exactly.
How? I want to know the how. Well, not the question. How are you going to do that?
Well, here's the thing. So, like, safety and security. So, like, for instance, we did some research on that when you were running for sheriff.
Right.
Okay. That the sheriff is responsible for crime prevention. Okay. So that is a not a responding or a reactive place, but that's a place of, like, you're making sure you're being proactive. Okay.
Right.
So if you were doing that from a sheriff's perspective, why would you even need to be talking about that as a mayor, except for the fact that we know, as someone running as mayor, you're running as the chief public safety officer. So you have connections to
the police department.
The police department.
Right.
Okay. However, it's in the past, it has almost seemed like there's been a division between the two of the safety and security. So do we just let the flock cameras be the oversight? Do we just let them respond? Do we let there be a power struggle in between the sheriff's office and the CPD as to who's going to respond to what's going on in Highland, for example? There's a lot of crime that takes place down there. Are we going to be? It's just one of those things that's like, you say that you're going to be about safety and security, but what exactly are you going to do? Because we have, in my opinion, we have very defunct and almost neutered departments, and they don't really deal with crime.
No, you're right.
We've got gangs, obviously, that run rampant. We got judges that let them off easy. We've got plea deals that are happening, in the prosecutor's office. So what are we, like, what are you going to do? Let's not talk about what you're going to do. Like, what are you going to do?
Well, what really irked me was, I told you got the last question, Mr. Hughley did. And we were given facts and figures out of a lot of different things we were talking about, right? So those are specifics. And at the very end, he gets the last question and he goes, well, folks, you've heard a lot of facts and figures and everything, which I'm just paraphrasing this, but it's a lot of BS and all that other kind of stuff. Dude, when I said there was the 124,732 gang members across the state, that's true. Those statistics, folks, are not BS. They come from the Georgia Gang Investigators Association, which I am a member of, and I do get intelligence reports on gangs every freaking day. So there's no way that that's BS.
Yeah.
And I really take offense to that, because a lot of people were talking good things and facts and figures. But, Isaiah comes out all the time and says, well, I'm the one who created that. I'm the one who put the health thing in place, and I've done this and I've done that and blah, blah, blah. Well, then why is it such a damn failure? That's my question. If you created all this stuff and you got solutions to it, then why is that such a failure? Why do we have so many gangs in Columbus? Is that a failure? Is that a failure that by you?
Yeah, it's another, I guess, controversy. All the funding that's going to these prevent violence or initiatives or cure violence or
Glad you
something.
brought that up.
There's so many things that when you actually look at the list of it, that they're really not even going towards the violence issue around here.
Well, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I did some research on cure violence too, because when I saw, there was like an article that came out whenever it first got initiated, and I can't remember which year that was, but I knew Reggie Lewis was the guy who was kind of like the point of contact, and I worked with him when I was at TSIS, and so I was like, oh, it's Reggie, you know. So I started looking into Cure Violence, and this was like right around the same time that I was looking into like what is the role of crime prevention, like who's responsible for that, you know. And I started seeing that we have the crime prevention that's supposed to be supposed to be taken care of by the sheriff, but then we have a crime prevention board that is underneath the oversight of the mayor, and then we have Cure Violence. And I was like, okay, so I start looking into Cure Violence, and I found a TED Talk with the guy who was the founder, and I can't remember his name, so I apologize for that. But I started paying attention in this TED Talk, and anybody who wants to go out there, you could just do a Google on YouTube for, you know, TED Talk, Cure Violence. And he was addressing violence like it was a
infectious disease.
And he has education and experience as a virologist, and I think there was another name for it too. It's very similar to like what
do we get
Bill
shots
Gates
for
has
that?
been.
Is it an infectious disease,
Well,
or what do we do with
honestly, I kind of was curious about that as well. That's my own thoughts, and that's for another topic or another conversation. But when I started looking at all the money and where Cure Violence was coming through, I saw that Cure Violence money was coming through the Department of Health. And so I was like, okay. But then you also look, and the mayor sits on the hospital board. And so I'm like, so why do we have all of these different oversights and all of these different, I don't really know, like containers, I guess you could call them, and they're being funded. But then when it talks about these detractors that are supposed to be sent in when there's violence, like when have we ever heard anything about that? You know, so is this just a laundering container? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I pulled some notes down about Cure Violence. Of course, I figured we were going to get into this tonight. So Reggie Lewis, if I remember, they gave him $50,000 for initial study or something, and I think the results were that we weren't going to see any feedback for the 10 years.
10 years. That's a
Holy,
terrible investment. Terrible.
And they want, and do they want to drop $1 million or so into that? This is ridiculous.
$500,000. I think they've already funded.
They've already funded, and we're not going to see any results for 10 years.
Wow.
I mean, this is ridiculous. And look, I'm going to put a stop to that in a heartbeat. But Cure Violence failures right here. The approach has faced challenges and failures in its implementation. Some studies have shown the evidence of violence generating effects, indicating that the approach may not be effective in all contexts. For instance, some peer-reviewed studies and reports have shown the evidence of violence generating effects. And what they were talking about was sending these, what was the name that they gave the people going into the neighborhoods after an effect, something happened?
I thought those were the violence detractors, or there was another term.
There's another terminology for that.
I'm looking real quick to see.
It's just crazy, globally, including urban areas. And they did say that the Cure Violence approach had been endorsed by various organizations, including UNICEF and UNICED, United States Department of Justice, and all other garbage, these organizations. But I mean, to me, it seems like a money laundering scheme. I mean, that's, they come in and it's, I swear to God, if you're a contractor and you want to get some money out of the city of Columbus, come up there with some grandiose, crazy idea, get them to spend a couple $1 million on it, and then go bankrupt.
Yeah.
All the other businesses have done when they've done construction here.
So this is an article from 2021. WTVM put it out. It says efforts underway to bring national anti-violence program to Columbus. Okay. And so it ends up saying, let's see, based on taking people from the community, what we call interrupters.
That's
Lewis
what it was.
says these interrupters are used or trained to handle situations where we have violent events. We are looking at Cure Violence and impacting the way we can reduce violence and remove and change the norms of the community. And what's interesting is it goes on to say The interrupters would go out to the scenes and find the families impacted by violence or identify people most at high risk of transmission. So is that like HIV transmission? Like what are we talking about? Transmission of violence, and step in and intervene in whatever way necessary for each specific situation.
Sounds like we can get shots for that or something.
Well, and
We can get inoculation for it. We can stop the violence by getting a shot.
well, you want to know what's interesting is because we're now calling it out.
Yeah.
Watch, we're going to see something in the news because, you know, they're infamous to do this. Whenever they hear other people talking about what they're doing in secret or in the dark, now all of a sudden you're going to see articles come out where they're like, oh, cure violence, praise, praise, praise. Look at everything that we're doing. And then they're going to go dark again.
But who was the one that instituted this policy? Because cure violence is kind of like a policy. It's like they're trying to, it's an objective to decrease crime in the area, which it's been
says
a couple
in this
of
article
years.
who did it.
So tell us who
Reggie
did it.
Lewis and Cedric Hill joined forces to bring Cure Violence program to Columbus.
But who do they join forces with?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
See, they left that part out.
Well, no, they just said both of them, like they joined forces together. So like they were two separate individuals and they came together to bring Reggie Lewis and Cedric Hill joined forces. Like, and the way that I interpret that is that those two men came together and they are the ones, and as it says, to bring the Cure Violence program to Columbus.
Yeah, but someone gave them the money to get that going. And we all know, that's without saying it, who gave them the money.
Well, you know, it's interesting that Reggie Lewis picked up on this stuff, and I think it's because the mayor gave him the idea. When I ran for sheriff, I brought up an idea similar to this that was very similar, but it had a lot of different legs on it. And I actually did a briefing with Mayor Skip Henderson in reference to it, and it was on WTVM. They aired, you know, the fact that I was up in the mayor's office doing that. And it's interesting that when I looked at some of the aspects of cure violence, I looked at it, I said, well, you know, in concept, it sounds like some aspects of it might work. It did. But the way it was organized and everything else, I looked at it, now that I come back and I look at it, to me, I think this is this big Ponzi scheme, and it's a scam to get money out of you. I don't think there's no effect, especially when you're going down the line and you're saying we're not going to see any results for 10 years. Mm-hmm. Do we got 10 years that we can wait for this? Do we want crime to get much worse and more murders here?
Well, I mean, theoretically and logically, if you have three different entities that are in crime prevention or response in the sense of, I mean, you could argue that cure violence is for prevention and response. But if you have the sheriff's department that is supposed to be working on a crime prevention plan, what are we hearing from the sheriff's office when it comes to prevention? Yeah. And if you have a crime prevention board that's underneath the mayor, I mean, we have grants that we're giving out to all of these different churches and businesses that are supposed to help, you know, with bringing the youth in, getting them off the street. But we have media companies that, you know, we have the Ledger, WTVM. Like, what kind of effort is being put into, like, hey, let's follow up with what these people are doing?
Yeah, the follow-up.
And
that's
see,
what we want to see.
That's the question. Is like when you don't have any kind of accountability. So is this money just like, are we friends? Are we just giving it out to people who we have favor with? Are these like people in the same fraternities as us or go to the same churches?
Yes, all of the above.
You know, and so it's like, you know, and I'll be honest, and you guys can correct me because I haven't looked at the donations for this year, okay? But, you know, you take Mercy Med, for example, okay? Are there any crime prevention grants going to them? Because they're doing a lot of good work over there in Highland. Right. So, you know, where's the effort? Where's the praise for the effort? Where's the accountability to the citizens so that we stop questioning, is this money that's just going out into thin air?
And the oversight. That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, I don't think there's proper oversight on that. What about the $1 million that's funneled every year out there for supposedly
programs, crime prevention programs, because it's issued under the crime prevention program.
Yeah.
Who one person is in response to. And I remember that the Seth Brown guy who's in charge of that, he's the director of it. I remember Glenn Davis talking to him and say, do you have accountability to all this? Do you have? But I didn't see any performance measures that were given by whoever got the money. It was like, you gave it to the Boys and Girls Club, but what did we receive in response to it? Was it positive? Did the kids stop? Did they stop crying because, the Girls and Boys Club did what they were supposed to do? And it's a good organization, don't get me wrong, but let's see the results, right?
Yeah.
You guys say, well, let's see the receipts. Well, we never seen the receipts.
Nope.
We were told what they are. What are they? Let's show it. And that's when we get back to we start talking about transparency. That's part of my program is transparency.
Yeah,
I want to
but
see the numbers.
Yeah, but that's really, honestly, that's right. That in itself is the main thing that the establishment does not want.
No, they don't want that.
And
No.
see, when Charlie was running in 2018, they were fine with him talking about back in the blue, and they were fine with, talking about, how he wanted to come in and do this and do that. But as soon as he mentioned that he wanted a full forensic audit,
See? I told you.
OMG, let me tell you. I mean, like it was, and then of course, because the full forensic audit, there were people from inside the government, there were people who used to work for the government or were married to police officers that were contacting me because, I was the do all catch all be all, and I'm having to transfer all of this like conversation to Charlie. And now all of a sudden he's kind of tailoring his platform to, well, we're also going to go on anti-corruption. Because we were seeing all the corruption in the current sitting, whether it was the chief of the police, whether it was counselors, whether it was previous sheriffs or current sheriffs, and they don't like that. If anyone is coming for exposure, if anyone is coming for undoing how it's always been done, you can pretty much already guarantee you're going to have some intense opposition.
Yeah, and that goes back to like...
That sounds like me.
Well, that's why you've never been able to get in, because you want to do... You want to get rid of that.
Yeah, well, folks, if you want to see honesty, transparency, and difference in government, then elect me. If you want the same old BS that's been going on for 100 years probably, then go ahead and pick up these other candidates and get more of the same. You're going to get shoveled more of the same right in your back pocket.
Yeah, and that's some of the things that as we talk about the debates and what these candidates want to do, that it makes me think of like how many of these people are actually in it to make the people of Columbus's life better, or how many people are in this just because they want, some money, or they want to.
I know 3 people so far.
3?
I know 3 people.
So who are your top contenders? Tell us.
Well, obviously Mark, like he's always been my contender because, there's no off switch for him. It's justice all the way.
It's all
That's right.
straight and narrow.
Straight and narrow.
55 miles an hour straight down the road.
That's right.
Well, and then you have, like, I've talked to Steve Kelly a couple of times, and you know, he's pretty cool. So, I really feel like he's in it for the people. And then, of course, there's your husband running for the school board.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and honestly, I just haven't talked to the rest of them. And, I really have this, like, contention because as I'm not really living in Columbus anymore, as I've kind of not really been accepted in Columbus anymore, it's just one of those things. It's like, do I still, stay involved in the politics? And obviously, because we have a connection with you and Mark, like I usually get kind of roped in at sometimes.
It's inevitable. You're our friend, so therefore, most likely you are going to be roped into this. You're going to have forever
at some
contention.
point, I'm going to be coming home, just so all of y'all out there know.
That's right. That's right. That's what I want to hear.
But these are the crazy things. That's why I'm saying is the folks are not, they're not holding the candidates' feet to the fire. It's all these softball questions that they're throwing them, and then they're throwing questions at them that somebody's already got the answers on them.
It's because it's not touching them personally.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what I'm trying to say is, you can talk about your initiatives, but folks, hold them accountable to the fact of what they're saying. If they're saying safety and security, you should be asking them, what specifically are you going to do with safety and security?
What about transparency? What are you going to do about transparency in government?
Yeah.
You know, I said I'm going to open up forensic investigations in the finance department. We got problems down there.
Oh, yeah.
The people that were implicated in the finance department investigation, they should have been fired. They should have been fired. There was a question of $45.1 million.
Oh, yeah.
Was it accounted for? Was it not accounted for?
And no one was fired. No
and
one.
nobody was fired. If you went to a job and you were incompetent in your job, do you think that you'd be holding a job the next day? I mean, if you were missing $100,
No, he's just running for mayor. You just run for mayor at that point.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You just run for mayor and excuse everybody else. I mean, that's the crazy part of this whole thing is we're not holding the candidates accountable for it. Folks, I got an answer for everything on my campaign. Everything.
Yes, you do.
But nobody has got answers about what these other candidates are talking about. Nobody. Especially when you got Mr. Hughley talking about chaos and division, who you created yourself. Come on, man.
I think, too, that the people of Columbus have, like, short-term memory. And
they do.
And it's like, okay, so we had the debacle, and I didn't hear about this until later. We had the debacle supposedly with the whole issue with the trash fees that Jay Nathan brought up back when. And then we had the CACC, issue with all of that. And then we had the $45.1 million. And then we had the American Rescue Fund. And
then $50 million goes to the baseball.
At the end of the day, okay, like, and this is something that I've been studying from the constitutional perspective, okay, that if you elect a public servant, and we need to stop calling people leaders, okay, they're not our leaders.
Oh, no, not even
okay,
close.
They are our public servants.
That's
that
right.
means they do what we give them power to do, okay?
That's
But
right.
it also says that they are trustees. Now, from a contract law and from trust wills and estates perspective, when you start talking about trustee, this is someone contractually that has permission to spend your money, to spend it, to save it.
City council spends our money?
Yeah.
Oh, my
and they're
God.
doing horribly at it.
$15 million?
And honestly,
Secret
it's
vote
probably
behind
more
doors?
than that, because they're making all sorts of decisions, when it comes to the
yeah.
Golden Park. I think I saw, what was it? There was I was looking at one of the meetings, the council meetings, and it was during that time last year, I think, Mark, that I was looking for the 2024 meetings where they were discussing what was going to happen to all the different boards if
Right.
they ended up putting that one organization together. Do you remember what the name of that is?
Are you talking about the Sports Authority?
Yeah, the Sports Authority.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the Golden Park deal.
Yeah.
The $50 million that went to that.
Yeah.
How that was a loan that the citizens were in for. So I personally believe it's more than $50 million. But getting back to the trustees side of it, okay, if people would really stop and think about how their money is going to continually be impacted, whether it's the rise in the power rates, the daily rates, and we've got the data center question, coming up in here. We've got all of the and these things like the power company and the water company, they're monopolies. And you have councilors and mayors that are sitting on these boards as well, which y'all really need to check your charter, because that's a conflict of
I know
interest
that
as
is.
well.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be sitting on any board while
shouldn't.
they're
I
in
personally
a city.
think that they shouldn't be sitting on any board. The medical boards,
it's
the
a
hospital
conflict of
boards,
interest.
none of it they should be sitting
according to the charter, they're not supposed to
No.
be. Like
Yeah.
the charter specifically states that if you're a mayor, you're on a councilor, you're not supposed to be sitting on
No, and
any
in
of
fact,
these boards.
well, and I think too, even if you're employed by the city, you have to be actually like unemployed with the city for a certain amount of time before you can sit on the boards as well. So you have all of these spider webs of conflict, okay, and you've got handshakes, and a lot
Hands
of
in the
them are
cookie jars.
realtors, and they have skin in the game, because
Yep.
if I can control this and control that, I can get that property and this property
Yep.
and blah blah blah, whatever. But at the end of the day, if citizens would stop and think, okay, if someone is trying to wiggle and smooth talk their way out of accountability, they're not in the interest of being transparent. And if I'm a citizen and I'm paying my taxes, whether it's property tax, sales tax, like school tax, whatever that is, and you're continuing to make purchases frivolously, make purchases, when am I ever going to be out of debt?
Well, this is why I think it goes back to that one point where you were saying about, well, I think both of you guys were making the statement about how this is a good year to really change things around, to vote in people that are going to consider these things, like consider how the fiscal responsibility, consider how they are tackling crime prevention. And I guess even listening to the forum, I did feel like some of the questions weren't as like detailed, going into, what are you going to do about safety and security? They kind of stayed away from that. They talked about homelessness. I heard that. They also talked about, well, I can't remember at the moment.
Well, we talked about homelessness and especially veteran homelessness and things like that. What programs and stuff you wouldn't put in place. Homelessness is a very complex issue. It sounds like it's simple. It's like, hey, people just live in the street. No, it's not like that. It's very complex because the simple fact that you have institutional also homelessness.
Yeah, they don't know anything more than that.
Right. They've been in an institution all their life or in and out of an institution because of mental health, PTSD, whatever it might be, alcohol abuse, drugs abuse, whatever. And they're in and out of the system. So they are institutionally homeless. They don't know anything. So when they get out there, where are they going?
Yeah,
they're going in these encampments and places that, there are. And I feel sorry for them. I really do. I feel sorry for them because there's a lot of folks out there that really need some serious help. But we haven't heard anything about that kind of stuff.
Well,
Not one of the candidates. Now, Steve Kelly talks about it, and so do I. But
I might be wrong, but wasn't Brielle talking about that too?
yeah, I think he talked a little bit about it the other night.
He was very general.
Yeah.
He was very general and all that kind of stuff. What Steve and I talked about before was, even institutional homelessness and some of these other categories. Like I said, it's a complex issue. Some people don't like to live within the confines of four walls. Mm-hmm. They just don't. They like to live, some of them probably lived that life before. I know a few examples in the past history in Columbus. We used to have the old bird lady downtown. It used to be at the government center, and she fed all of the birds and everything, And believe it or not, she was a nurse at one time, had a bank account at CB&T, had a lot of money in it, but chose to live in the street.
Wow. Yeah, I saw something on Facebook where they were saying you can't address, and it was a comment, like you can't address homelessness without first understanding the causes of it.
Right.
Like what is the reason why these people are homeless? And I think that when I was doing, criminal justice policy, when we talk about recidivism and, incarceration, like you also want to research the reasons why these people committed these crimes. And the same thing goes with the homelessness. And I think that having a plan that, that kind of attacks those kind of questions and addresses it is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't there like an ordinance that they were talking about passing?
Oh, they did pass the ordinance.
They did pass
Yeah,
it?
it did pass, and they made it illegal to do that. But
is it being enforced?
I believe it is. They just
Okay.
took down an encampment the other day. The city did, a big encampment that they had out there. Like I said, it's a complex issue, but what I wanted to do, and Steve Kelly and I have talked about this before, was that we want to take abandoned homes that are out there and get... Now, you Columbus builders, if you really want to do something decent, you guys are investing, in a lot of campaigns, because I know one of them, Mr. Bowles, who is also from Canada, and so is Joanne Coggle from Canada. That's pretty obvious who he's going to support, but he's a big building contractor. If you really want to do something worthwhile,
Yes.
then come to us or Steve Kelly and want to invest your time and your efforts into the homelessness problem by helping us as contractors. We want to recruit contractors to come in and take these abandoned homes and refurbish them and redo them and get the people off the street and get them in a home.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the number one thing that it talks about homelessness is immediately get somebody into a home. That's what it talks about. Then everything else comes beyond that. drug treatment, psychological treatment, all of that stuff, but it mentions getting them into a home immediately.
Well, and the other thing is too, and I knew this from living in Highland for a period of North Highland for a period of time. I lived over by Fox Elementary, and you have Highland Community Church, and I used to be a member. Well, I wasn't a formal member, but I went there a lot. And so you have these organizations like, Highland Community Church, and then you have Truth Spring, which Rob and Carrie Strickland are over, and then you have, the connection with Take the City over there, and they're already doing efforts to put homeless or people who are going through, whether they have just gone into a men's home from right after being released from prison or the county jail or whatever the case is. And so, what are we doing to give money to those organizations that are already
and
successful? Because if they've already got the connections and they've already got the successes and they already have the access, I think about. I remember every Christmas with Highland, we would take lights and we would go and we would decorate all the houses right around in that, I think it was like a block, if I remember correctly, of Highland community. They ended up doing that every year for those people or they would raise, money to get gifts and give them to, the children that were down there that didn't have money. 'Cause that's a very poor area of town, and so it's I saw them over the years. They had the pantry that they had going. They had breakfasts and lunches that they do. They had chicken and rice. They did all of these things, and now they have. Well, this was like a couple of years ago. I haven't been back there since then. But they have showers, for them to have. Or they have programs where they take, if you want a job, they can help you find a job if you need a place to live. So what are we doing to give money into those kinds of places?
How about that $1 million that they get? Some of those. Matter of fact, we met a lady here not too long ago at the Columbus Country Club, the Women's Republican Party meeting over there, had a lady over there that they do exactly that. They pick abandoned homes out, and they've got money that's donated to them, and they've done a wonderful job. Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. It was a couple homes that they have done, and they're continuing to do that. And that's where I got my idea. I kind of stole the idea from her. But why not band together? I think there's strength in numbers.
Yes.
Just like I said, what I wanted to do with veteran homelessness was to talk with Tunnels and Towers, to talk with the Wounded Warriors program. There's like 100 different programs out there that do things for veterans. But I think that if we had a national coalition of some sort and that we all got together and we could all benefit from it, because like I said, there's always strength in numbers, and they can help the veteran side of that. And then we could help the non-veteran side of the homelessness by getting, these organizations, the builders. You want to do something worthwhile, feel good about yourself? Join us so that we can eradicate this homelessness. I think I hate, it really bothers my heart to see people on the street begging with signs and stuff like that doing. And I know there's always some folks, some are going to criticize me. Some people are going to say, well, those people are just, they're driving Mercedes and all that stuff. Yeah, maybe there's a few, but I'm going to tell you right now, you can tell whether that person's homeless or not. I can, because I know, I study people and kinesics and body mannerisms and the way they speak and the way they act. And I can tell you if somebody is, they're homeless or they're not homeless. I mean, seriously, that's that investigative background, that law enforcement background that I have. But, the bottom line is we're trying to come up with solutions. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Whether it's a right solution or not, we don't know unless we put it into operation.
Okay, but all of those are things that are underneath the stewardship of a city manager, which you guys do not have right now. So it actually kind of brings a question that I have for you, because when I looked at the city charter again about the city manager, when there is not an operable or a current city manager, then all of those duties default to the mayor.
Okay? Yeah, interesting.
And we've seen that there were supposedly candidates that were part of the selection or application interview process, and yet we don't have a city manager. So my question to you, and even if I get a chance to talk to Steve or any mayoral candidate out there, is if whoever the mayor is that goes into the seat in January of 2027, and there is still not a currently sitting city manager, where's the priority in that? And are you going, like for you specifically, Mark, are you going to use the recommendations of whatever third party company that's providing all of the applicants for that? Or are you going to seek your own independent application process?
No, I think when you start looking across the board, I think you need to take everything into consideration. That's what I did when I was in the Army. I looked at all the policies and whatever the policies were, if it made sense, if it was black and white policy where you don't have a choice to stray outside that, right? Then you have to do what's legally there on the, in the documents. But I think we need to be careful in who we select as a city manager this time. I think, just because Isaiah was here for 20 years and then we put him in that slot, there's all kinds of institutional failures that I'm not going to go through them all because we don't want this program to extend until 10 o'clock tonight. But he was involved in a lot of failures. I want to make sure that we put the best candidate in that position.
Yes.
So I welcome the fact that I would have the selection process, but I would look at everything that's in the city charter, what a city manager's job duties are, and they're very specific.
Yes.
I mean, they're spelled out in the charter.
That's it.
As a matter of fact, he's the man who's got the plan. He's supposed to have the plan.
Well, and you really need to focus on what the approval process looks like for the city manager.
I agree.
Yeah, because I feel like last time they have a whole bunch of resumes handed for that job, but they I guess dwindled them down to a certain few. I don't know what the process is of how they come to the decisions for these candidates.
Well,
and that's where the transparency part should come out.
Exactly. That's
it should be spelled out that any future candidate that wants to apply for that job, and I think anybody who thinks they're qualified into it, got a business background, a leadership management background, apply for that job. But where is the black and white? Where is, you got to have so many years of this, you got to have a degree in this, you got to have this, you got to have that.
I personally
Is that spelled out? I haven't seen anything.
I don't know. I mean, we haven't been privy to that, but I personally think that anybody who's selected, and this might just be my bias because of the experience and the lack of transparency that I've experienced with anybody elected in Columbus, is that if you're not willing to be a yes man or woman, you're not going to get it. You're just not. If you actually want to help the people, if you actually want to do the right thing, if you actually want to be transparent, you might as well hang up your hopes.
Because the city manager is the guard of the gatekeeper of our finances, and they can say, well, Mr. Mayor, I see what you're saying. These are, like, as much as I want to do these projects and I think they're great initiatives, we just don't have them in the budget. My husband, he has a saying. He says, hold to it. So he doesn't spend money, especially if it means putting other people in jeopardy. And I don't think Columbus has a money problem. I don't think so.
It has a spending problem.
Exactly.
Yes.
It has a spending problem and a good old boy system.
Yeah. And I've said this before. I feel like the taxpayers, they're being cheated. And not only that, but it almost like the mayor, city manager, and the city council, they look at taxpayers' funds like it's their own checkbook or something. It was like, $50 million? Hell yeah, we'll write a check for that. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Instead of doing the research and being transparent, why didn't we put up a $50 million dollar baseball park up for referendum? Because you know what the public would have said? The taxpayers said, no,
I know.
We can't afford that.
I'm like, y'all done took away my garbage, my tree disposal. Y'all don't even come pick it up anymore. The recreational parks are depreciating. My property taxes are the highest in Georgia, or like the second highest in Georgia. I would have given them a mouthful. I already have a video about this stuff. So I would tell them, go eat, go pound stand.
This is ridiculous. I mean, you're asking us to approve. See, they know darn well that taxpayers are not going to approve that stuff. And I'll tell you why I think it's so funny. It's sad, but it's funny. We talk about transparency, and they're spending money behind the doors. I mean, this is ridiculous. But the bottom line is is when the architect that came along for the football field down here, right? The big Coliseum. He came up with an extravagant figure of $140 million. And I about choked on my spit, man. And then Glenn Davis adjusted himself up in his chair and he said, I don't think taxpayers go for that. No crap. No kidding.
But no, you got to say what he said.
I can't remember.
He said, what did you say? Oh, but if you spend a little bit.
Oh, no, that was the architect. That was the architect. Yeah, so after they come back, they started cutting. Glenn says, well, maybe we can widen the wall out. Maybe we can do this because they wanted to widen the field because the soccer field is wider than a football field. It's longer and it's wider, right? Got a lot more running you got to do. So they want to move out the walls, right? Want to move those out, destroy them, move them out. Then they want to build the bleachers bigger. Then they want to put that backdrop or whatever the hell they're putting in there. They don't want to put sprinkling. They want to put artificial grass. They want to put this. They want to put better locker rooms, blah, 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 blah. And then it went on and on and on. And Glenn goes, well, maybe we can dig up the field. And maybe we can put the pipe in. Maybe we can move that wall out, make it soccer. But the way the architect was trying to sell them is like, well, you know, and this is crazy. They do this crap all the time. Is they said, if we do all of those things, we can get world-class soccer here. We can get competition here. We can get this. We can get that. That's what they tried to sell the crappy $10.5 million on the baseball park down there, the softball park, because the future of NCAA, they came here one time after that. Because I told Charmaine Crabb this. I said, you know what? I said, Charmaine, is that worth spending $10.5 million? Oh, yes, sir. It certainly is. We spend that because the future, we're going to bring professional competition. And granted, it's being used, but there ain't no dumb NCAA championships. They held it one time, once after the Olympics, and then once after the expansion and everything they did on the baseball park again down there, or the softball park, that happened. And been nobody down here. Nobody.
Okay, but here's the other thing that people don't really understand either is that they're being sold that this will be good for Columbus.
That's right.
But here's the thing. If you actually look at any public building, any real property, any build, expansion, whatever it is, like the taxpayers' money is paying for that, but who gets the profits? Because when, for instance, when I did the research on the Ralston way back when, okay,
which is still a shithole.
Well, yeah, but
still a shithole.
With the first time, okay, I found that there was a municipal bond on that building, okay. And my first question is if everybody's being told that a New Jersey company owns that building, then why does the Columbus, I think it was like the Columbus Housing Authority or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while. But why would there be a municipal bond on that? And at the same time, I saw Walker Garrett in there as like the property manager for a veteran that they were trying to kick out because his veteran benefits didn't pay on time. So why is Walker Garrett standing in for this New Jersey company? And so I started digging. Well, if you looked on, you could still see it. It's out there, like in the old archives. Like you could still do a Google search for it. But there were trades being done on the municipal bond. So are those trades being allotted to the citizens?
Is the money coming back to the citizens?
It never does.
Well, I did see on the annual financial report, and I'm kind of interested to see 2025's. Like there is a large section dedicated to pensions and a large section dedicated to the stocks and where all these monies, like the revenue that you get from our taxes. I think taxpayers, we paid a lot of money. I think like the budget was over $1 billion in a whole bunch of revenue, money shifting around from different avenues, from money coming in to projects being spent out.
As Isaiah said, he's been responsible for over $1 billion in projects.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I will say that a lot of those projects are probably pensions and paying for your airport authorities and paying for your golf authorities, millions of dollars
But
to
aren't
these
those
things.
positions supposed to be like non-payment, like non-paid positions?
I have no idea. Like, that would be a Mark question.
Well, when I was watching that Sports Authority, they were talking about how the people who sat on the board weren't getting paid. So why
They're
are
getting
we
paid.
Okay, but that's not what they said here. And this was
Just look at those annual financial reports. Like, these people are getting paid some form of stipend. Nobody's gonna do it for free. Just like with the airport authority. Who was it? This big realtor property owner here in Columbus. You think he's going to sit on this board where he has to host a whole bunch of meetings and he's a wealthy man for free? No, he's getting paid. He has a good pension. You know, that they divvy finances to these authorities. And if you look at it, it's right there in the financial report. And I have screenshots of it. But yeah, they're getting paid.
But again, if they're all servants, why are they living in better houses than everybody? And why are they driving better cars? And why do they have jets? And
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting
it's
question.
kind of like the pastors in churches.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same concept. You know, why is the pastor who's supposed to be there to shepherd over those who are sick and need help? He's the one that's driving the Benz and
got the nice
he's got
Cadillac
the
and the
jet
Mercedes.
And, you know, he's got
Warnock.
the fortress locked down. You know, and
Warnock? No kid. No way.
No, he has a tent
No
village.
way.
He had a tent village
Is that the
outside
guy
of
who
his
ran
church.
over his wife's foot when she was carrying his child with him?
Oh my goodness.
Th-
Yeah, there's
wasn't
so
that
many
one-
things.
one that
So
there's
many
so much
scandals.
oh my God, there's so much scandals. You know, this is the thing that I mean, again, and the news is complicit in all this stuff too. I mean, that you know, you got news reporters that are just baby news reporters, and they're just told what the management tells them to do. You know, and it's bad because we don't have investigative reporters anymore. And so what they do is they launch these softball questions all the time to folks and things. But the guys like me, oh yeah, they'll stick me to it. They'll ask me the hard questions. They'll ask me to explain myself and all that kind of stuff.
Which you have the answer to. So.
Well, I do have the answers to it, but then they try to refute that by saying, well, how many times has Mr. LaJoye read? Oh yeah, 5 times. Oh yeah, unsuccessfully. Well,
no, I
folks,
think the better question is how many times has it been stolen from you? You
yeah,
know?
how many times has the election
many
been stolen
times?
from me?
Yeah.
That's a better question. You're absolutely right.
every single time I would bet money on it. Every single time.
You know, I'm no Abraham Lincoln, but I recall that Abraham Lincoln ran more than 25 or 30 times in his political career. So you don't criticize him, do you? But anyway, that's here nor there. But yeah, this is crazy. This election is all I'm asking, folks. I'm just asking for a fair shot. That's all I'm asking for, and I'm asking you to do your homework and study these candidates and study what the initiatives are and what they represent and hold their feet to the fire. Just don't say because we talk about public safety, we talk about transparency. What do you mean by transparency? What specifically do you mean by that? I said, well, I'm going to conduct forensic investigations because I really want the taxpayers to understand where their money's going, what happened to it. How about the questions about the $45 million? We don't know what happened in that. And I've asked people this question before, and they've said the exact same thing. I'm not quite sure where all that investigation went. Well, we already know that 2 people in the finance department, the charges were dropped.
I know.
It got swept
Statues.
under the rug.
The
Wayne
statute of
Jernigan
simulation.
made sure that went away.
Really?
Wait, did he die? Didn't somebody die?
No, that wasn't
Wayne?
him.
No.
That was
No.
the guy that worked for what was his name? The one that died on the
Yeah, the one that.
Allen Parkway there.
Oh, you're talking about Tyler Cashball.
Yeah, Tyler
Oh,
Cashball.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about Wayne Jernigan.
Yeah, Wayne Jernigan was a DA here at one time.
Well, he's from Marion County, where
Right.
I'm in.
Right.
But I mean,
But they did the hot potato. They were like, "Oh, here's
I
the hot
know.
potato.
I
No,
know.
you got it. I got it. No, you got it." And they waited out the statute of limitations on it, and then they dropped the charges. I knew that was coming. And I'm going to tell you right now, the dog pound out there, the animal control, that's where this is going. Those are some serious felonies. You had people in the application of ketamine, which is a drug It's a horse tranquilizer is what it is. And they were given, that's what they're euthanizing the dogs and stuff out there, the pets, which is really unfortunate. But wait a minute, Isaiah Hughley.
Yep.
He got instead of $3.5 million, we're only paying 3.2, folks, because he negotiated that.
Okay, but let me say something, okay? And I don't know the dynamics of everybody that was in there,
Yeah.
like at the time that this happened. But I used to work for Hank Hall. He was actually my first employer when I was 15.
Okay.
And when I tell you that Dr. Hall was an amazing doctor. Like he was, you could tell that he loved the animals. There, like every single time that I was there with them, like he was above reproach. And so I was very shocked to see that he was charged and arrested, you know, as the doctor. You know, I guess he was like the main doctor over the program.
Yeah, he's over the program.
And so I have to question, was he really the person that did that, or was he a patsy? You know, like
I mean,
I just have a hard time believing that he would do something like that.
Well, the Georgia Bureau Investigation came into that, and of course the DEA is going to be involved because it's ketamine, it's drugs.
Right.
You know, we call ketamine is cat, and it's a widely abused drug. You know, it can be refined down for human use and all that stuff, but the bottom line is he was the man ultimately signed off on the paper, the prescription for ketamine. Now, if he was a patsy or not, we don't know where the investigation, we hadn't seen any of that.
Right.
We don't know what the results of that investigation. We know that people were charged. Nobody came, we hadn't seen indictments or anything on it. We haven't seen anybody go to jail on it. And the bottom line was, you know, the physician is in charge. He's in charge of the drugs. Now, did he give the ketamine to, you know, part-time workers, or were they licensed? I think that was a lot of the question, was where the charges came down was, you know, did they have access to the drug cabinet to give this ketamine and all that stuff? Or were they authorized to do the tranquilizers, you know, on the animals? That, I think those are all questions that are part of that investigation. And we still don't have any answers on that. We don't know where it's going to go. And it's already been how many years already?
It's been
Well, the
about
45
3
million
years?
happened
Yeah,
in
2 or 3.
2023, right?
Yeah.
The end of 2023.
And it's
And then
misdemeanors.
CACC was
Shortly
like
after
shortly
that.
after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going on over 3 years. And, you know, there is a statute of limitations on felonies if you don't bring charges before them.
Yeah.
Which
And
is-
Some charges don't have statutes, like murder, rape, you know, sexual assault. Those don't have any statutes. But there are statutes on some of the lesser included crimes, right? So I don't know if that meets the lesser included crimes that this happened. And it'll be interesting to see. But if there is a statute of limitations on it and they drop it out, I knew darn well that the district attorney was not going to charge those people, you know, from the finance department. And the crazy part was, even if they didn't charge them, because of the way that things came out for business licenses and money that was mishandled and checks that were not, look, you can't use COVID as an excuse, all right? Because all it is processing the paperwork, processing the thing for business licenses. And even when after the COVID was all said and done, and I think Judy Thomas brought it up, people were still waiting for their licenses. They hadn't got them yet.
well, I think people are still waiting.
They're probably still
and you know
waiting.
that there's some that hasn't even been processed.
Yeah.
Well, when I was going through Isaiah's financial disclosures, I went, you know, Columbus has a business license search. You actually put me onto that. And he's got tons of business owners with no business listed. Addresses are unavailable. Names don't match. You know,
You're kidding.
And when I went and looked at these supposed business owners, which of course he didn't put the names on there, so I actually had to do some really good research on it, you know, had to look in there by address or whatever the case was, or in the Georgia Secretary of State's website, some of these businesses aren't even legitimate.
Yeah,
or
they didn't have
some
license.
of them, their license expired in 2019 or 2022, or they only renewed their license every election year.
Wow.
So is that where the missing business license money went?
That's a good question. All these are really important questions that need to be asked and answered, and we're not getting any answers on it. But the guy that's going to heal the division and chaos has got the answer. He's got he's got the answers.
No!
Dang it, I've got the answers. I'm going to heal Columbus. I'm going to heal.
God.
You know when he said that the other night, people were laughing in the audience, and I had to laugh too. I was like, I'm looking at him. You got to be kidding me. Seriously.
created it.
You can go back and look at the video. You'll see I'm
the
giving
scary
this
thing-
snive look, you know.
The scary thing is if you had a hard time managing all the finances and all these departments in the city, now you're going to be over the legislation.
No.
Wait a minute.
Like
But how many managers and city managers we got?
deputy city managers on there
Got
too.
two.
Oh my God. You're kidding. We got two deputy
So-
city managers that
know.
manage, one manages the finance and other sections.
And I guess it's the other one is the HR side of it, right?
Yeah. So you can't do your job with two deputies? Oh my God. I wish in the Army that as an interim sergeant major that I had two deputies to help me out. And I was managing $1 billion in resources and personnel and equipment. Holy cow. Really? And this guy's got two. And the highest paid
Don't even get me started with that.
one of four of the highest paid city managers in the entire state. And I believe only one of the city managers had an assistant or a deputy. He's the only one that has two deputies. From the last research I did. Now, I know somebody's going to get on there as some keyboard warrior, and he's going to go, oh, Mr. LaJoye ain't right. There's two other organizations. There's going to be some bullshit up there. But anyway.
Well, I'm a firm believer that if you want to, as a citizen, to be confident in your safety and security and confident in your money being spent appropriately or accumulated appropriately, depending on what that is, you're going to have to get rid of the criminals, the actual criminals. And those
Government
actual
gangsters.
criminals are the ones that are allowing the crime. So how are you going to heal a problem that you have actively overseen and allowed for all of your years? So I'm a firm believer that new blood, just get rid of it all.
Revolutionize it.
Completely wash it all away and let's put brand new people. No more incumbents.
Well, that's why we're going to do the forensic audit because, like I said, I don't want to reveal. Well, I do want to reveal any shortcomings or any illegal stuff, activities, transfers, money, where it's being spent, because I'm not going to come before city council with these outlandish ideas, try to sell city council on it. And if, again, the mayor only has a tie vote. The city council's got a very important position because they're the ones that are allocating and voting on the monies that are going to be spent. But damn it, I'm going to do everything I can to stop it if there's any crazy ass spending that they keep doing like they're doing. Folks, I don't want anybody to pay more taxes than they actually have. We have the highest property tax in the state. We have the highest sales tax of 9.5%. Now, that's the crazy part. They rounded that down when I start looking at statistics. No, you need to round that up to 10% because the next half or one half in percent is going to go up probably again shortly. And I mean, we're trying to sell all these people for these taxes that we're on. Have you seen the business taxes that people have to pay?
Yeah, with the
There's like
regulations.
5 of them. Occupation tax, sales tax, food tax, hotel tax. It's crazy. But, we've got Joanne Cogwell talking about taxes in small business. Look, folks, you need to understand something. I'm not against small business, but small business pays the lion's share of all the taxes in Columbus. It's not the large corporations. It's not.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I want to bring medium to large corporations here to Columbus to open up businesses to help pay that lion's share of those taxes. Now, some people will say, well, how are you going to do that? Well, obviously, you're going to have to recruit. Obviously, you're going to have to offer some tax incentives. And I don't know if that's a sliding scale. I have no idea. You have to look at the businesses and what their requirements are. what they're willing to give up, what they're willing to pay. I mean, there's a lot of dynamics involved in that whole process. But once you get that done, then you can, give them a tax break for the next 5 years, and it's a transcending thing till this is the X amount of dollars. Because if it's 1 or 2%, 3%, 4% over a period of years, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, well, and this is another thing that we were talking about a little bit. Instead of always incentivizing all these other corporations, which I do agree, we need better jobs, we need better paying, I guess, opportunities so that people can, have a better quality of life. But then again, like, why not incentivize the people that are here, the small businesses that are here? Let's make the load a little bit lesser on these people so that they can pay their employees a better, decent wage.
Well,
let's focus on incentivizing some of these restaurants so that they can, people can actually give them better tips, or that they can pay them a little bit better versus like $2.13 an hour as I guess a waitress or a server. So like, I'm thinking like, instead of always seeing out, I feel like in order to rebuild the infrastructure, it's like you rebuild the people that are here first. Like
I agree.
You give them perks so that they can create more and that they can grow more. And then, add on, if it starts busting out of the seams, then add more companies, add more businesses. But honestly, my vision would be to have the infrastructure so solid that the people have, they once again lower property taxes so that people have more money in their pockets to build, to create, and then also have people to help build, to attack and address the issues, like the builders who want to, help us with the homelessness initiative. Incentivize them, builders, if they want to work on our projects, you give them another tax break for future projects to build onto areas around here. There's just little things like that where I feel like we're always looking outwards, but we should sometimes just focus inwards as well.
My idea looking outwards is because of that fact, I don't like the small business burdened with the highest taxes. So I feel that if the big businesses came in, that we could provide these incentives and take that monkey off their back, basically, like you said, is we can look at that and take, 1, 2, 5%, whatever it is, take it off their back. And then the small business, or the big, small to medium to large businesses would come in and pay the lion's share of the taxes. That gives them a tax break. We got to offer incentives. But you have to understand, even if local taxes are large businesses, we offer them the incentives. Here's the problem. The problem is a lot of business owners, it's not a trickle-down effect. They don't pass it on to the employee. That's the problem. But if we offer them tax incentives like that, small businesses, take the monkey off their back, then they have to be willing, in writing or in contract or whatever, to trickle down that effect to their employees. Because the same thing can happen with small and medium-sized businesses and large businesses, because they come to Columbus, right? And they'll come to Columbus and they'll say, well, what can you do for us? It's like, okay, we'll offer you, 3% for the next 5 years or whatever it might be, some crazy idea. But the bottom line is they don't hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah.
And they need to be selecting employees from local areas, from this area, putting them on the thing. And I'll tell you why. Because H&K did the exact same thing. H&K, when they relocated to here, they had a small business that was building magazines for the military. They were doing warranty work and that stuff for guns that they had. And then when they built the other side of the house, they got in tax incentives. And what they were trying to do was say, well, we're gonna provide 350 jobs. We're gonna provide all of this stuff. And they didn't do it. They brought their experts from Germany over, because it's a German company, H&K. And all those people were in all those executive slots and all that kind of stuff over there. And they threw a few crumbs out there for people to work and assemble weapons. But that's the problem, because if you look at economics, there's no trickle-down effect. And this is what happens. Those companies get greedy and hold that money to their chest without passing the incentives down and requiring them on paper to hire local employees from the area instead of bringing in their experts that they can charge, a couple bucks for and bring them in here. And that we have to hold their feet to the fire. And that's not what we're doing. We were asking companies to come here, but we're not asking them to hold their feet to the fire. So we have to have standards. So like I said, small business can do that, right? And I would offer those incentives if they're willing to trickle down that effect to their employees.
Yeah.
If it's offering $1.50 more an hour because a waitress only gets paid $2.25, which is sacrilege, even though I think the Trump administration said there's no sales tax
on tips. In
overtime, which is awesome. That's a start, right? But local employers could do the same thing, offering their benefits, only if the city's willing to give them those tax breaks.
Yeah.
And they're willing to trickle down that effect.
Well, I guess then, like, because I see what you're saying. I do agree that allowing other businesses to come in to take the load of the taxes,
That's the reason why I want to do it.
Yeah, that is important. But then again, it kind of goes back to the idea of where is the money going? If we are such a wealthy city, which I do believe we are, we're the city of Coca-Cola and Synovus, TSYS, Aflac, with all this old power money, it's like, how is it that we don't have? And then a lot of these people sold. Some of them aren't even here anymore. Right. But it's like, why? Where has that money gone for all these years? And if we're at this point now where these companies, these big people have just up and left, it's like there is a call to refocus on our current finances, find where all the money is going, see where the waste is, and to consolidate it, because it might very well be where we probably don't need all these big businesses here. We just need to just reallocate the funds back to the public and make the quality of life better for them. Reallocate it back to our recreations, reallocate it back to all these infrastructural things. But I don't know. So
when have you heard city council or the mayor or city manager or any of those people over there, when have you heard that we're going to give the taxes, we're going to give you a 1 or 2%? Have you ever heard it since you've been here? I've never heard. No. Never heard it. I've never heard it. Wow, I'm going to get 2% back from my taxes?
I mean, even the governor gives Georgians back some taxes.
Yeah.
So, why are we not following suit?
Yeah,
exactly.
why second largest city in Georgia, and we're not offering our people tax breaks? We're willing to take their damn money away from them out of their pocket and rook them without giving them any answers. 50 wow, with 50 million, I know that wouldn't go a long way, but it's sure we could put that money into, how about Parks and Rec for the young kids? How about pools that are working? How about water parks that are working and that they're turned on? How about plumbing?
I know.
But we're willing to spend $50 million.
But that's my thing. It's
sure am.
As much as I am a big critic of the baseball fields, I cannot stand what they've done with that Golden Park deal. It would have been better if I knew that, hey, we get an incentive, we'll lower your taxes, we'll do something in return. And because we know that this is a big cost, but we need this here. I would be more than willing to be the biggest advocate for that baseball field. Yeah. If I knew that in the end that it does have a potential, that I would train all my boys, because like I said, my boys are very good, and my girls, everybody is in softball, baseball, and they're really good. So I would definitely benefit from it being here. But if it means that they won't be able to enjoy that field, they won't be able to go see these games because, for one, it's expensive, and then we're trying to pay and make our mortgage. It's just pretty much self-defeating.
You mean the $5 beers and $10 hot dogs and everything else
I don't.
Somebody's getting rich over?
Exactly. Oh, which family? That's another.
That's another story. We're at an hour now. That's another story.
33 minutes.
Yeah, the people are getting rich that are getting rich, and it's not being. There's no trickle down effect out here.
No.
That's the thing. We'll do another program on all this, but it's crazy, man. That just the things that go on down here, and I don't understand. Excuse me. I don't understand when the taxpayers say enough is enough.
Yes.
I don't know how much more that you can beat them up to death, rook them, steal from them, on these crazy outlandish projects that we're talking about. And yeah, I wanted to talk about that really quick. The architect, when he came back and revised the plan, and he goes, puts the plan. Of course, you took all his other garbage out of there, all these outlandish things that he wanted to do. And he said exactly what you said. But if you spend a little bit more, you can get a little bit more. Well, no shit. I mean, no kidding.
Where's the money? We don't have the money.
Where's the money? Show me the money.
Yeah.
Show me the money. So it's crazy. But folks, we've talked about a lot of things up and down the wire tonight related to the campaigns and who is serious about, doing what they're doing, whose big families have paid off these candidates. I mean, you can go to the Muskogee County elections, Columbus elections, Muskogee County election, however you want to call it, office. You can pull down a candidate, contributions. Just look at them. That's all I'm asking you to do. Look at them and see who's been bought off. See what families have bought them off and what special favors that they're going to get from them. That's all I'm asking. Look at that. And look at my campaign disclosure. I got $100 donation. $100 donation. That was from my former next door neighbor. It was down the street from me. That's all I got. I supported my own campaign. I don't need $96,000. I don't need $67,000 to run a campaign. Because, again, we're talking about budgets and outlandish money that's being spent by city council and the mayor and all that kind of stuff. Folks, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to spend your taxpayer money on crazy-ass projects. I'm just not. I'm willing to spend money on, like what we talked about, recreation parks and pools for the kids. And how about making these recreation centers safe instead of getting drive-by shootings and people in the parking lot. Again, we talk about crime and punishment and safety and security. Folks, our community is not safe. It's not. And, the city council members, the city manager, former city manager, all of them want to take victory laps when they said 30, 40% reduction in crime. Even if that was true, the numbers are in the details, okay? I mean, that's baked into the numbers. The other thing that you have to understand is if there's a 40% reduction, is that an accomplishment? Because if there's more than one death, that's not an accomplishment. I know we'll never get to zero crime or zero punishment, but the things that are going on around here, the safety and security, that it's outlandish that we're letting the gangs get away with this. And when we have all 159 counties in Georgia that have a significant gang problem, there's something wrong. Yeah. And we're not seeing the prosecutions. We're just seeing a handful again the other day. We're not seeing the prosecutions. The GBI brought a task force here that deputized both, CPD and Muskogee County Sheriff's offices, deputies, and I'm not seeing any progress. I'm not seeing any progress. As a matter of fact, I talked to a guy in court here not long ago, and I said, what significant numbers can you tell me? He said, well, I got about a handful is all we got. I'm like, and you've already been here for a year already? And we're not seeing any type of charges anywhere? I mean, the Zohannans are the gang that's running this area down here. They're running it. And they're running drugs and prostitution, human trafficking. It's happening here, folks. And we got to do something about it. We got to stop it. We had a mayor over here who said we never had a significant gang problem. I'll give you two guesses who said that.
I'm going to say something controversial.
Go for it. Let's hear it before we wound up.
Wound down.
You have a gang problem because the gangs own the sheriff, allegedly. So if the sheriff is being controlled by the gangs and the gangs are being controlled by the upper echelons, how are you going to deal with crime?
Yeah.
You got a sheriff that the gangs don't take serious.
Yeah, well, that's the problem is there's people that don't want to take the problem serious, and that's where we come up with one of our candidates in here. Ms. Bryant talks about cure violence, and that's the answer to the problem. It's not. Cure violence is a failure.
Yes.
It's always been a failure since there may have been a few successful places that happened, but Philadelphia, Baltimore, all of those places, the crime is out of control.
You have to exist in order to make a difference. So if you're wanting cure violence to make a difference, show us that it exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Show us that it's doing something.
Right.
Yeah.
When you don't get results for 10 years, you're asking us to invest in a program, and what type of like you say, what type of receipts are we getting from it?
Well, where's the surveys?
Well,
where,
exactly.
where's the documentation?
Exactly.
Where do we see any of that?
So, folks, these are the types of things that are burdening the community and everything out here. We walked around into Arbor Place today and got a lot of good contacts from people out there and things that they were telling me out there, which was really important. If you really want to know something about your neighborhoods, you want to know about things that are going on, you need to walk the neighborhoods. You really do, because those people come out of their homes and they'll tell you things. There's things that they want to see. Sometimes they're afraid to ask these questions. They don't want to be singled out, but they'll definitely come out in front of their house and talk to you. So that's where you get to know where the rubber meets the road. That's where we call grassroots campaigning, and that's what I'm doing. I'm grassroots campaigning, and I'm reaching out to every neighbor that I can. So we'll walk as many neighborhoods as we can. We probably walked about 3.5 miles today, me and my wife did, and we did a fantastic job. And believe it or not, she worked so hard, her knee is kind of messed up, and she still walked in the neighborhood. That's how dedicated we are to the Columbus community. So, folks, all my co-hosts here, I really appreciate you coming on board today with us. And Julia will be a regular part of that program here coming on. I do want to talk very quickly, very, very, very quickly about the upcoming debates that we're talking about. The next one is on the 7th, and that's WRB or WTVM, and that's going to be at the River Center. But what they have done is they've limited the amount of people that can come on board. They said it's going to be limited to 8 tickets from each one of the candidates. I disagree with that. I think that this should be open. I think anybody and everybody that wants to come to this, what they call debate, these are really not debates at all. They're forums, because a debate is a back and forth discussion, which they won't allow me to do. They won't want me getting. They don't want me getting an argument supposedly with the other candidates. But you know what?
Because you're so aggressive.
Well, yeah, I'm so aggressive.
No, you're not.
Exactly. I'm a big bully on the block, guys. I'm such a big bully.
You're such a meanie.
I'm a meanie. But the bottom line is I really want the people to see the back and forth discussion. I want them to see the raw side of these candidates, what they have to offer and what they don't have to offer. You can throw questions at me. I can answer any question. It doesn't matter to me. Any question was on there. But Ricky Weeks from the Muskogee County Republican Party posted something on Facebook where he said that, what do you have to hide, WTVM? What are you hiding? Open it up for all the people, the public, because you are the people who are going to select the next mayor.
Yes.
You're going to be the ones that select the next mayor. And it's important that you have buy-in. Well, maybe, I don't know. I know we're all laughing about that.
Is it still a selection, or is it actually going to be?
They cannot rig elections forever. They cannot. And you know what? With all the things happening at the top of the Georgia Assembly, I'm just telling you guys, this might be the very year we see a miracle.
Yeah. So we have that coming up, and then then we have one more that I wanted to get out there very quickly so that folks, and that's WRBL. That was the controversial one where they tried to limit us on the dollar amounts. I think they realized that backfired in their face very quickly.
Yeah.
I had something to do with that, but that's okay. The bottom line is we got it done and we got it fair, and it is what it is. But that's going to happen on WTVM. Then we have WRBL.
Are they having another one?
Yeah, WRBL is doing theirs on the 23rd. So we're doing that on the 23rd. And then we have the Davis Broadcasting and Echo Latino thing. Wayne Hales is going to be over there. Oh, God. That's on the 16th of April. That's going to be a one-sided deal over there. But the bottom line is these are the ones that are upcoming. So take a look at your schedules and stuff and plan accordingly for that. So those are the most pertinent information coming up on the debates. And if you want to know something about it, you can also call me. My phone is public out there. Everybody knows what my phone is. And I can brief you on some more of those things. But again, folks, I really appreciate you tuning in tonight, people coming on board. What are our future guests? What are we having for a future guest?
So We have a few people. We have Brennan with
Brennan Brown.
Brennan Brown with Luke Brown and the Jubilee.
Okay.
And then we also
What do they do?
he's a band, but he's pretty much a local citizen, and he wants to talk about, your plans, your policy. I think he wants to ask you a ton of questions. So just give him the spiel like you give me. And I think we want to get Brialt. We're going to have,
Brialt.
yeah,
Yep.
we want to get him on there. And that's pretty much it for right now. We're definitely, I also talked to the former Libertarian Party.
Yeah. That would be interesting to
leader.
get them their perspective.
They don't want to be on. They're against anything,
Media-wise
surveillance,
and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So like they're probably gonna do just a video. So we have to figure that out. Just
Okay.
the audio with the picture, and we'll switch it accordingly.
That's fine. I get their. I'm supposed to have set up something with them. I get it. I understand. I won't get into the video side of that, the benefits and downsides of those things, because there are a lot of benefits on some of the videos. I'm not saying that we've got to put a camera in everybody's home. I know that's the fear, but we have our Fifth Amendment, our Fourth Amendment. All of our protections are, and I believe that 100%, and I practice that every day, folks, as a law enforcement official in my active job. So I understand that there are benefits to some of that stuff. I won't get into it right here because I don't want the show to last another 2 hours. So, folks, I really appreciate you tuning in tonight. If you have any questions, go back to Facebook and answer those questions, and we'll be posting this. We'll break it up into different amounts. That's how we usually do it, so that you can digest, 10, 15 minute.
Yeah.
And then you can look at the whole thing, if you want to sit down and, if you're trying to fall asleep or something, you can tune into that or whatever it might be. But Julia, welcome on board on the program.
Thanks.
And Sarah will also be on the program when time is allotted for her, because she's got a big family and a big education problem that she's got to get through right now. So
2027.
that's it. So, you got anything else we want to close up tonight?
I want Julie to close us out in prayer.
There we go. Awesome.
You
Wow,
want?
thanks. Okay. So, Father God, just thank you so much for the opportunity for us to come together, or to just display your love, your understanding, your desires for the citizens of Columbus. Thank you for all of the brave souls who have entered into these races, Lord, no matter what the position is. Thank you, Lord, that you see their hearts, God. And I just ask, Lord, that if any of these candidates have anything in their hearts that is in opposition to you, Lord, that they would be banned from sitting in any of these seats, Lord. If they don't want to take their service to the people or their position as a trustee seriously, God, do not let them come into these seats, Lord. And anyone who's sitting in a seat currently that is not observing your people, that's not stewarding your people the way that they were given the opportunity to do, Lord, evict them from their positions. Lord, we just say no more incumbents, Lord, and we just thank you that you are moving mountains, that you are bringing them down, you are raising up valleys, Lord, and I just decree and declare in the name of Jesus that this is no longer the valley of slaughter, but it is once more being seen as the valley of vision. So, Lord, we love you, and it's through your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. God bless our soldiers overseas. God bless our taxpayers, safety and security here in Columbus. And that's the end. Good night.